cast a long shadow. From the arched window of her quarters, Morathi Kane looked out across the urban sprawl of Har Kuran with a strange mixture of elation and despair. The newest addition to her hand-won empire, the city had been called Adventgard not for so long. It had a different ruler then, before she had become renewed. Now the city was hers, an annex to the Heliflux in Ulgu, and a power base in the strategically vital heartland of the Great Parch. By the blood of the crone, how she hated it. At the edges of the port city below, yellow-green swirls of defoliant mist curled into the surrounding jungle, vaguely tentacular as they fringed the black-brown body of the port city. Their chemical stink, mingled with the wilted vegetations they were designed to fight in the sulphurous vapor of the Charwind coast, made for a scent not unlike piles of refuse left to rot in the sun. Before her hypotheses, each gut-churning whiff had made her skin itch, pricked at the corners of her eyes, and made her even more irritable than she usually found herself in the company of fools. Such mortal concerns were long behind her, but it offended her sense of propriety nonetheless. A poor lair for a goddess, Har Kuran, but a powerful statement, and for now, it would suffice. Mingled screams reached her, carried on the evening air. At least the place was never boring. She turned away from the window, her serpent hair shadow spreading long upon the alabaster wall. It shifted and withered of its own accord, but it did not disturb her. That was far from unusual when her shadow queen form was torpid. Only when the nest of the snakes twisted into a great metallic crown, the shadow lengthening and becoming that of a slender, impossibly tall male with oil-black eyes, did her stance shift. "I wonder when you would pluck up from the courage to visit your mother," she said. "My, how you've grown," came the hollow-voiced reply, the slash of a smile opening in the kingly shadow on the wall. "My congratulations." "They make a welcome change from your contempt," said Morathi Kane. She looked away to mask her seething emotions, pouring herself a goblet of spiced blood from a flesh-warm decanter of fire-glass. "Things will be changing in Ulgu as well as Akshi, scion of mine. And still, even with your long-sought divinity, you cling to mortal habits. One must take pleasure where one can find them in these times of turmoil. No doubt your bedchamber has seen its fair share of turmoil of late." Morathi Kane slashed a long-nailed finger in the air, and one of the kingly shadow fingers dropped away, graying to nothingness. The sneer of the shade's mouth turned to an angry snarl, its eyes flaring to the tongues of white fire. "The time in which you can speak to me in such manner is over," said Morathi, sipping from her goblet. "Be glad it is only your finger I take as punishment." "There will be a heavy price," said the figure, affecting nonchalance, "for this outrage and for your latest presumptions." The king's shade shifted to become a thing of blades, purple fire burning at its tips. "How do you think the barbarians will react to your blatant coup?" "He will do nothing more than thunder and grind his teeth, reticent to jeopardize one of the few alliances he has left," replied Morathi King. "Immortality has taught Sigmar again some measure of perspective, and he has his victories over Nagash, even if it is by proxy." She shrugged, bare shoulder pale in the moonlight. "Even with the Nedrite curse receding, he knows full well that every city he builds, another would fall. At least Avangard fell to one who will ensure it still stands." "Delusion," said the shade. His kind burns hot when the anger has them in his teeth, for like us, they recognize the power in it. A tempest of shadow grew form around the apparition's blade scalp, miniature towers toppling in flashes of light beneath. They cannot put it aside without sage counsel, and who counsels the god of storms? Even now in his precious gladiatorium, his dullard legions practice warcraft against simulacra casts of your daughter's image. Who would know of it better than you, the king of warriors? You lecturer of punishment, said the shade, shaking an extravagantly crowned head as its bladed incarnations took the aspect of a king once more. You talk of justice, of consequence, when your own lust for power has endangered everything we fought for. The dark prince thrashes against his chains, his essence somehow bleeds free. The silhouette jabbed a finger at her, a drop of pitch black blood running down the wall from its wounded hand. A direct result of your ambitions. You risked the worst of catastrophes purely to sate your own selfish desire. Morathi Kane walked close, smeared the shade blood on her own fingertip, and put it on her lips. As ever, the ends justify the means. There was a knock at the chamber's door, quiet but distinct. Her ambassador to Hammer Hall, the elegant Salenti Learsheath, appeared half hidden in the vestibule. "My lady, the rebels." "Silence!" shouted Morathi, hurling her goblet at the messengers without looking. It struck silently, full in the chest, and the ambassador recoiled with a terrified hiss. "Silence!" the goddess said again, her voice quiet and silken this time. "I am spending time with my son." "As fine an appreciation for the arts of rulership as ever," said the Shade King when they were alone once more. "Better to be feared than loved? So you do listen then, if only you hearken to your own lessons," said the shadow. "You cannot keep your allies drunk on the honey of your voice. With the Nehekaran's works undone, Sigmar gaze will turn to you. I have plans to avert it. Besides, I fear he will have his hands rather full if he seeks order now that dear Alario is making her play. Even in Ulgu, you must feel the rams shiver in unease. They will be brought to heel, but the twins have become emboldened by the victory of light over death. The blind one tests my borders as we speak, vicariously, at least. For now," said the Shade. "The Haitians are seekers, always probing, always shining light where it is not wanted. But if the Lords of Illuminations find a stable path through Cathardia, before we are in full control, the shroud will soon tear, and our entire notions of supremacy will be at risk. Teclis is laying the groundwork already, but his delusions of altruism, he knows it is only true path." Morathi Kane smiled, but there was no mirth in it. "He's right. One does not send a child to slay a drake, and not all in the shadow of the mage god resent the manner of our work." The Haitian sun outside the window pierced the mist for a moment. A beam of sunlight speared down, refracting through the window to form a smaller figure on the wall. It was slender, robed, and armored, with a tall helm in the manner of the Venari. The Shade King moved his uninjured hand above it, and it danced as if to music. "The dream is pervasive," said Malerion. "In the right light, it turns from black to gray to white. And thanks to the swift thinking of my agents in Shaish, I have just the offering I need to open negotiations once more." The Shade King held up a giant mask, regal and lambent, framed by bifurcated horns and casting the image of a Nemetrican longhorn. Glowing dust cascaded from the crumbled ramstone at its neck. "Ah, my little magpie," said Morathi King, looking at the Shade King with genuine affection. "Even under eons of cold hatred, I can still find the embers of love for you. But sadly, I must cut this short." "I heard," said the shadow, The humans are revolting. Don't ever change, my dear, said the goddess, rolling her eyes as she turned away. She smiled nonetheless, suddenly wistful as her mood lifted once more. There was killing to be done. So there you have it, guys. That was the short story that was just released. It is amazing because it is the first time we actually get to hear what Malerion is doing, and actually the first time we actually get a look and a feel as to how he is like. Apparently he's this shadow being that he can shapeshift into different forms, which is expected. He is the god of illusions. It is what Ulgu is all about. Finally we get a little idea of what he's doing, what he's actually doing. For now he's just trying to maintain the supremacy of Ulgu. He's actually in a fight with Tyrion, and that is what we all kind of assumed that what he was doing, what Tyrion was doing, he was actually battling against Malerion. And could Malerion be a bigger threat than Nagash, since Nagash on Broken Realms Teclis did tell Teclis that his twin brother Tyrion, he's not there helping him, and then Teclis says that Tyrion is actually focused in fighting a bigger threat. So could this be it? Could maybe 3rd edition finally get a little glimpse of finally what the miniatures will actually look like for the Dark Elves? Also, it's pretty interesting that they released this right now. Since it's the first time ever we get a little tease of what Malerion is doing. It kind of gets the imagination flowing here. But also, turns out that Alario is doing something quite big. I think she's gonna be the main focus of the next book, and actually she's probably gonna be what causes maybe 3rd edition, that resurgence of life that we've been hearing so much about. Maybe that is what's gonna be causing a big trouble, since the elves have this long history of thinking they're doing the right thing, but they actually mess up everything because they think they're almighty. But it's pretty interesting that they're feeling what Alario is doing. We also get to see what Malerion and Morathi are like together, that they have this kind of like love-hate relationship, since in the old fantasy days, Malerion, or as he used to be known back then, Malekith, was the actual rightful king of the elven race, but he got duped, and now this whole thing happened, yada yada. But Morathi always wanted power, and she was always hated Malekith or Malerion, but somehow she still respected him. And pretty interesting, I thought they would be working against one another, but they actually are working together. It's just that the way they do things, they don't agree with one another. And we also get a little glimpse of Teclis and Tyrion's plan. They actually are using the Chasm City of Cathardia. That is the place where they would throw all the used up ether quartz, and that actually created this direct link to Ulgu. So apparently Teclis is trying to figure out a way to, I guess, turn it into a portal that would directly just I guess give them access to Ulgu in an easier fashion, I guess, instead of using the realm gates. And maybe that also, he thinks that that's gonna lift that illusion magic that is going on in Ulgu that prevents people from actually doing stuff. And we also get a little callback to Sigmar's Warhammer Fantasy name, his actual name, because I know here in Age of Sigmar we just know him as Sigmar Heldenhammer, but we actually get a little callback to his actual clan. So it's a little callback to the old world, and actually they do remember a lot of the stuff that happened in the old world, so that's pretty cool. And also we get to learn from Malerion that maybe in 3rd edition Daughters of Cain are no longer going to be part of Order, since he does have spies everywhere, Malerion, and he actually has seen that actually Sigmar is practicing to go with his Stormcast with little replicas of the daughters of Cain. That's pretty interesting. So are we actually gonna see the end of Morathi in the Order Alliance, and she's gonna end up doing something else? So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you think Sigmar is actually going to go to war against Morathi? Since, like I said, Malerion did say that he actually is preparing, and the fact that Morathi is being overconfident, thinking that Sigmar is going to be busy doing other stuff, but in fact, to him, Sigmar is going to plan to retaliate because she has been taking cities in Akshi. So what do you guys think he is actually planning to do some sort of counterattack against Morathi? Do you guys think it's going to be the end of that alliance, just that little part? And also, what do you guys think Malerion is going to do with that? Clearly it's the spirit of a mountain, the realm stone that he has. Is he going to trade it to Teclis or to Tyrion to kind of like manipulate them into not invading Ulgu? But yeah, let me know guys what you think. Are you excited the fact that finally we know what Malerion has been up to and what he's doing? Leave a comment below, and remember, not everything is what it seems in the realm of Ulgu.